What unfolded on the January 30th, 2026 edition of Smackdown was not just an attack. It was a declaration of dominance, a warning shot fired across the entire WWE locker room, and a moment that may permanently alter Drew McIntyre's road forward. Jacob Fatu did not arrive to make a statement with words. He arrived to leave damage, and by the end of the night, the message was crystal clear. Nobody is safe. Welcome to Wrestling Space, where we don't just recap what happens inside the ring. We break down the moments that shift momentum, expose intent, and redefine power in WWE. Smackdown had already been running at full speed. The crowd was electric, the stakes were high, and the tension felt heavier than usual. Drew McIntyre's presence alone was enough to command attention. The Scottish warrior walked with purpose, his body language speaking volumes. This was a man still carrying the frustration of recent setbacks, still fighting to reclaim his spot at the top, and still operating with the intensity of someone who refuses to fade quietly. But what Drew didn't realize was that his night was about to be hijacked. As Drew stood in the ring addressing the WWE Universe, the tone was serious. His words weren't loud, but they were deliberate. He spoke like a man recalibrating his path, like someone preparing for war rather than chasing applause. The crowd leaned in, sensing something important was coming. And then, without warning, everything changed. The arena erupted as Jacob Fatu appeared. There was no dramatic entrance. No build-up. No music cue designed to soften the blow. Jacob Fatu stormed onto the scene like a natural disaster. His presence alone shifted the atmosphere instantly. You could feel it in the crowd's reaction, in the way commentary went silent for a split second, and in the way Drew McIntyre turned around just in time to realize danger had arrived. What followed was pure chaos. Jacob Fatu launched himself at Drew McIntyre with violent precision. This wasn't a sneak attack fueled by fear. This was a calculated assault driven by dominance. Fatu unloaded with brutal strikes, each one landing with intent. Drew tried to fight back, relying on his strength and experience, but the force behind Fatu's offense was overwhelming. This wasn't a brawl. This was an execution. Fatu tossed Drew across the ring with frightening ease. Every movement looked effortless, every impact looked heavier than it should. Drew, a former world champion known for his toughness, was suddenly on the defensive in a way we rarely see. And that's what made this moment so shocking. Jacob Fatu wasn't just attacking Drew McIntyre. He was overpowering him. The crowd was split between disbelief and chaos. Some stood frozen, others screamed in reaction, and the energy inside the building spiraled out of control. Commentary struggled to keep up because this wasn't part of the script fans expected. This wasn't a tease. This was real violence within the confines of WWE storytelling. Security tried to intervene, but it barely mattered. Jacob Fatu shrugged them off like obstacles rather than authority figures. His focus never left Drew. Every stomp, every strike, every slam felt personal, even if no words were exchanged. That silence was important. Fatu didn't need to explain himself. His actions were doing all the talking. Drew McIntyre attempted to rise, fueled by pride and instinct, but each attempt was shut down with ruthless efficiency. This wasn't about winning a match. This was about sending a message to the entire roster, and especially to Drew. You are in my territory now. As officials finally managed to create distance, Jacob Fatu stood tall, chest heaving, eyes locked on his fallen target. He didn't celebrate. He didn't pose. He simply stared, like a predator confirming the damage was done. That image alone may become one of the defining visuals of SmackDown in 2026. This attack raises massive questions moving forward. Why Drew McIntyre? Why now? And what does Jacob Fatu truly want? Is this the beginning of a collision course that could redefine SmackDown's main event scene? Or is Drew just the first name on a much longer list? One thing is undeniable. Jacob Fatu didn't attack upward to gain attention. He attacked sideways to assert dominance. And that is far more dangerous. For Drew McIntyre, this changes everything. He's no stranger to adversity, but this wasn't a fair fight. This was a message that his path back to the top will be harder, more violent, and more unpredictable than ever. Drew will respond. That's who he is. But the question is whether he can match the raw destruction that Jacob Fatu brings with him. For SmackDown, the landscape has shifted. Jacob Fatu has officially arrived as a force that cannot be ignored. This wasn't a debut. This was an invasion. And if this is how he chooses to make his presence felt, the rest of the locker room should be paying very close attention. Because when someone is willing to attack Drew McIntyre without hesitation, without fear, and without regret, It means they are not chasing opportunity.
They are creating it.
And here on Wrestling Space, we'll be watching every step of the fallout, every response, and every escalation that follows.
Because moments like this don't fade. They grow.